Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauryn and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind. Welcome, everybody, to another fun-filled episode.
Yay.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Kara.
This one's going to be super fun because we're going to do something that we've done a couple of times, and we're going to sample a Bourbon County. Yes, I know it's March. It took us a little while to get around to this one. I wanted to be able to share the bottle with my husband, and our opportunities to do that kind of just got spread out. Fortunately, Bourbon County is, got a little bit longer shelf life.
Yes.
And we'll be perfectly fine a few months down the road, and that's where we're at. So we are going to open a Bourbon County Variant, a 2023. Of course, even though it's 2024, you guys, we're not that special. I don't have anything from this year quite yet. I'm sure it's not quite in the bottles. And this is Bananas Foster Stout.
Yeah.
So we should get, our expectations. I think we're going to get, obviously, some banana, classic Bourbon County Stout flavor. My bottle has a couple of descriptors on it: almonds, cassia bark, and my personal favorite, natural flavors.
Always
with the
natural
what
flavor.
What does that mean, vanilla?
I don't even know.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know what natural flavors is added here, but all right. I actually really enjoy Bananas Foster as a dessert.
Cool.
Yeah.
I am, I could go either way. It is something I would enjoy and have some. It might not be my first choice on a dessert menu necessarily, but I do, appreciate Bananas Foster.
Fair. I like it. Where did I hit the best? One of the best I've had. It's from New Orleans, Bananas Foster, so it's created there. Not sure if you know that. But Brennan,
I'm not surprised.
there, has an excellent one that they make tableside at brunch.
Oh, cool.
So it's not even dessert.
Lovely.
It's breakfast.
It's your meal.
Yes, it's great. So
perfect, even better.
Add to our breakfast. So let's drink some and enjoy.
Okay, so I'm going to start with what I noticed when I gave it a whiff before I started drinking. I didn't get a lot of unique aroma. It was very Bourbon County. It was very this is a barrel-aged stout. I didn't get a bunch of banana or cassia bark or almond. I didn't get that in the smell.
Aroma. Okay.
Really.
I get a little banana. That's the only thing I get.
Yeah, maybe.
A little banana. But
I think it's delicious. I think it tastes really good.
Oh, I really like the taste. It tastes like dessert in a
Yeah,
cup.
it is nicely balanced with the sweet. It's very well rounded. It tastes almost better than I would have imagined. I said I was 50-50 on the dessert. And this is very good. It's not, none of the flavors are overwhelming. Nothing is overpowering.
It's very
you still get
well
the classic
blended.
stout.
Yeah, this is a very well balanced. So sometimes when you get a variant, a Bourbon County variant, it's trying to be really unique and it goes a little bit one way or the other, or you get an overwhelming taste of one flavor. This one is one of the better balanced variants I feel like I've had in a while, and I'm actually very much enjoying it. I do get a little banana aroma. I get the sweetness in the taste. Obviously the basic Bourbon County, but it's got a little carameliness to it.
It has a caramelized almost
yes,
flavor.
actually that's a better description, would be a caramelized, because it's not caramel. It is like that
Yeah.
caramelized taste.
Yeah, and
And
I would say
yeah.
possibly the combination with the almonds, maybe with banana, kind of gives you a
Oh,
little bit of that
I could
toasty,
see that. I could see that. Yeah.
roasty banana stout
Yeah.
rather than just being a banana flavored
Yes.
stout.
No, it's a good mix, but I think it's that you're right. It tastes like that caramelization of the banana almost with the caramel and the almond. Like it's just really well balanced. I'm loving this variant.
This
I
is
really
very good.
enjoy
Yeah,
it.
I'm very pleased. I'm not mad that I owned a bottle of it.
Excellent.
Um,
Excellent.
historically, my feelings on Bourbon County are that it's a little syrupy.
Hmm.
It's a little too alcohol forward for my taste in previous years. I
Yeah.
think the last couple years I've actually been pretty happy with
Hmm.
Bourbon County. Um,
Yeah.
it's had, like you said, there have been variants of this specific output, this
Hmm.
specific beer, annually that have that strong forward flavor that sometimes overpowers you. And
Yeah.
if you're not a fan of that flavor, you're not a fan of that particular variant.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
very good.
That's
This is
true.
very good.
There's definitely been some unique ones over the years. So, but this one, I honestly really enjoy this one. What, 13.9% ABV we're going on here. So,
It's not
it's a,
messing around, that's for sure.
no,
That's
yeah,
classic Bourbon County level
yep,
stuff.
mm-hmm,
Yes,
yeah.
I will continue to sip on this while we also talk about a very balanced subject. Lauren and I and our what I would call, I don't want to say debate because we're not going to debate this.
No.
But our a preparation and presentation of trip ideas.
Yes, yes, our
Lauren and I,
process for trip planning.
yeah,
Yes.
I would say almost a year ago, although maybe it coincided a little bit with my trip over the summer when I
Mm,
visited Iceland.
yeah.
We kind of visited the idea of going somewhere to see Northern Lights. And
Yes.
we've talked about doing a trip together forever. I mean, of course we
Oh
have.
my gosh, yeah.
What would be finer than just a few days away with another like-minded adult?
Sounds perfect. Yes, I sign
Yeah.
me up.
And so there, over the years, we have visited the idea of different places. Oh, would it be cool to go somewhere like this? Would you like to maybe do something like that? And you know, and nothing really, I don't think, like really, I'm like, you correct me if I'm wrong, but before we
Yeah.
started talking about possibly going to Iceland, I don't know
Mhm.
if there was anywhere real serious that we discussed. Maybe Oktoberfest. We maybe talked a
Yeah,
little bit seriously about going to
I
Oktoberfest
feel
at some point.
we've talked about that, which is still in the cards eventually, but I don't think we ever started looking into details of that. So I feel
No.
like this is
Where do you want
truly
to
our
go? Where do you want to
first.
stay? Where
Yeah.
do you want to blah blah blah? And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
decided on Northern Lights trip. We started to take very seriously where would we want to go to
Yes.
do that. And our first thought was Iceland.
Hmm.
It's become a very desirable destination.
I feel like as soon as we started talking about it, I saw
It was like
everyone going
everybody.
there. Like everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Every time I
Yeah.
talk to someone about Iceland,
Hmm.
they mention someone they know that's been there.
Agreed.
Oh, my brother-in-law was just in Iceland, or
Yeah.
oh, my cousin's family
Yeah.
went
So many
for,
people.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's like this is the hit place to go all
it's
of a sudden.
very popular at
Yeah.
this time. It's
So
trendy.
we started talking about that as a
Yes.
possibility.
And a big motivator, one thing that Lauren and I both agreed was kind of a nice option was hot springs.
Yes.
This was going to be the crux of the trip for us. We were going to go from hot spring to hot spring. That was what we wanted to do. I was like, this hotel has a hot spring,
Yeah.
unnatural. And we were just like, well, we're just going to go there and stay for like a week.
Yeah. We're just gonna, and mind you, also, this is just an us trip. Like this isn't a family. This isn't a
No, 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 no.
kid.
We're not
This
planning like
isn't
a
a
joint
husband.
family trip.
This is just a relaxing together, enjoying peace and quiet. That is the
Yeah,
theme
this is a
of
chance
this
for us to
trip.
bond
Yes.
together and
Yes.
appreciate, yeah, hey man, I'm gonna take family trips. I'm gonna take trips with other
Yeah.
friends. We're gonna do trips with our kids together. Those
Sure. Oh,
all
of course.
are gonna
Yeah.
happen. And yeah, if you're looking to go somewhere and you want to propose the idea to me, you guys, just ask
Oh, yeah.
and maybe we'll plan a trip. That's all good.
All for ideas for trips.
But our
Yes.
dream, me and Lauren's dream, is to see the Northern Lights on a trip together.
Yes.
And that's what we're aiming to do. So we start looking at Iceland, right? And we're like, okay, well, here's the things about Iceland. It's a pretty small country. It's an island. It's really hard to get around unless you're driving. They don't have like a rail system or anything like that in the country. So you can't really like depend on public transportation to take you outside of the main city, Reykjavik, right?
Yeah.
So those are things to consider that we talked about. Is driving a good idea? And blah, blah, blah. It's it's not in the US, so obviously you need a passport. Although some of the other places we proposed, that was going to be, and we're going to get to that.
Too.
That was going to be a factor. Although we both have active passports. So if this trip takes place in the next 8 years, we will be fine. But it's a long plane ride, things like that, all considerations. And then cost is a big factor. I mean, even though we're both comfortable spending a little bit of money to go on this trip, Iceland is a very expensive country.
It is.
So it's, when I was learning about different places that we could go and different things that we could do, one of the things that I found very appealing, like I kind of mentioned, is they have these resorts and stuff in hotels where like you can stay on the property and it's almost like an all-inclusive sort of thing.
There's a lot there that you don't even have to leave the property.
You can see Northern Lights while you're there, and you can sit in the hot spring while you're there, and they have a very nice restaurant, and and those are all very appealing things, but the hotel is very expensive. And Lauryn and I are reasonable human beings that do not want to hate each other at the end of the trip. So we will stay in separate rooms. And that multiplies the cost a lot. Although it is relatively more popular in Europe for there to be like single rooms. You can get a room that just has like a twin bed in it, which I don't really care that much about sleeping in a twin. But those options are more available in European countries than they are here. If you tried to rent a room with a twin bed in it to save money in the US, you would have a really hard time finding that place. There's just not a lot of that. Unless you go the route of like YMCA or hostels or things like that.
Which isn't really up my alley. So yeah.
No, or some people rent rooms on like Airbnb and things like that. Those all have variables. And for me and Lauryn, planning a luxurious vacation, we do not wish to experience those variables. That wasn't really the game. There were some incredible things about Iceland. The opportunity to see Northern Lights is obviously very high. It's pretty
the hot springs. There's some amazing hot springs.
There's some amazing hot springs. There's things in Iceland, even from my one day that I spent there, that don't exist in other places in the world. Definitely not in the United States. I mean, they have volcanoes and they have glaciers and they have all these things that just like we do not have them. We have sort of some of those things, but they're all in one little spot. And they have the appeal of hot springs and Northern Lights and the culture and and all of those things are great. I think for me, a couple of things that really boiled down ruling out Iceland were they don't speak English. It's not the primary language, although most people know English, but it is a variable. And if you get to a remote place, there's a possibility you're going to run into people who don't speak English. Icelandic is a difficult language to learn. So while I would be happy to download Duolingo and try to learn how to order a meal or ask for directions, it is a factor. I said already, it's not a cheap place to go, and I think a lot of that has to do with it being so desirable.
True. Yeah, especially
it involves a lot of planning way in advance. I really struggled when we were going to visit Iceland for just one night, finding a hotel just for that one night that wasn't like the airport hotel.
Right. Something that'd be worth a stay at.
That wasn't $500 a night.
Right. And the time of year is key too. I mean, we want to go when it is ideal, Aurora Borealis viewing. So that means that it's going to still be cold. And if we have to drive in a country that we are not familiar with in conditions that are potentially snowy is also a concern. If we were to do Iceland, we would probably do, the circle, and that would be potentially treacherous. I think for me, one of the biggest factors is if something happened and we had to get back home, Iceland would be the most difficult place that we were looking at to get back from.
Yes. Difficult to return from. Not easy to get back and,
Not
with short
urgently,
notice,
at least,
or
yeah.
yes, if something were to occur that required us to depart early, we
Yes.
would struggle. We would eat a lot of cost of the trip, and we would have to, pay an exorbitant amount of money to get home. And not that I would wish this upon either one of us, but if we were closer to home and one of us had to leave a day or two early, it's a little
be
more
okay.
reasonable.
Yes,
But
I
out
agree.
there, if you had to leave or I had to leave early, it would be really hard on the person left behind.
Yep, left behind. Agreed. Yes.
And would probably make that person, I
I would
feel
probably
this way,
just
would
leave.
probably just leave. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's a very logical argument for not going. So as you guys can tell, we have nixed Iceland. Our next, and I don't remember how we came about to the conclusion when we were discussing it initially, but at one point I was just like, I think we should look at other places that the opportunity to see Northern Lights exists, because while I think this is a very appealing place and I would love to go to Iceland again one day, I don't know if this is the trip that is right for us at this time.
I think we both were on the same page with that. So, other options we explored.
Lauren took Alaska, and I took Canada.
And we also had Maine in there for like 35 seconds because there's an amazing place there. However, it's in the middle of nowhere. So like our trip, not only do we want to see the Northern Lights, but we do also want to like have access to food and drink and, comfortable accommodations and other people potentially to like engage
all
with.
Very compelling arguments for planning a trip.
So the middle of nowhere Maine got cut very quickly, but was an option.
I remember
for you
that.
Adventurous types.
Yeah.
Not so much.
I remember that thought process, and I remember initially thinking that was an appealing option because you're in the US still, and it's not a long, difficult, complicated flight necessarily. Would involve some travel, like you said, but like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh yeah, let's go to Maine. That might be not all of the things you just said make it reasonable not to go. Also, I downloaded an app to track Northern Lights. And while there is a location in Maine that has like a camera set up, I often do not see it on the camera at that location. And I'm not saying it never happens. It is much further north than we are. But it is far less common than some of these other places that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about Alaska. So, because Alaska is also in the United States, very appealing, maybe a cheaper flight. What do you think about Alaska?
So Alaska, it's still connecting, but it is easier and there's more frequent. So we'd probably have to fly. So Fairbanks is where we would go. But you'd probably have to fly into Anchorage and either connect or drive from Anchorage up to Fairbanks, which again is the same issue in terms of driving in, potentially February, March timeframe. So the weather there is, temperamental. I mean, we can still get snow in Chicago in April, so you never know what Alaska's
I know, it
gonna
could
get
snow
in
next week
February.
for all we know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's still a risk if you're flying into Anchorage and you're driving to Fairbanks. It's a decent amount of drive. It is a very good viewing location. The odds of seeing the Northern Lights are very good there. So
that camera is set up as well.
Yes.
And that area gets viewing quite often.
Yes.
Assuming clouds and everything work out in
but
your
if
favor,
you're there, I think the way that we figured is if we're somewhere for 4 or 5 days, the probability of seeing it for 1 or 2, we want to be more positive than not. And I feel
I'll
like
touch on that more when we talk about some of the places in Canada, because I've learned a lot about Northern Light viewing, having researched the trips, and I've discovered that if it even exists on a night, you're gonna see it, even if it's cloudy. Like, it'll happen. And there are variables that come into play, but I'll touch on that when we get further along.
Yeah, fair, fair. So essentially the odds are good that we would see them in Fairbanks if we wanted to. I think one of the bigger things was the drive for me
Yeah,
from Anchorage
I
to
didn't
Fairbanks.
realize that you probably
Um,
have to make a drive. I would guess there might be like bus or something
I'm
like
sure
that.
there are,
Yeah.
but again, that's another, coordination that needs to be done.
Yes.
The positives were it is the US here, so there's a lot of positives to that.
Yeah.
You don't need a passport. There's a lot of
hmm
flights from Chicago to out, to that out direction. You know, the language, the dollars, there's, just
Yes.
commonalities to that, the convenience, I guess, for some of those things.
Sure.
There
Definitely.
are other things. There are hot springs there if we wanted.
hmm
There's dog sled races, there's other
Oh yeah.
activities and things of that nature. So we would be able to occupy our time, not just because, the Northern Lights is an evening thing. We've got all day to keep
Yeah.
ourselves busy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
definitely need to find some things during the day for us to do, some good food. There's some breweries, there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
pluses to there. So it definitely was an option. I will say that one of the things that strayed me from Alaska for this trip is that our family as a whole is trying to visit all 50 states at some point. So at
Ah.
some point, we're going to be doing an Alaska trip, whether that's 5 years from now or two, whenever. But, I kind of was on the fence whether it's someplace that I want to go with you and then go back with and do a family trip or
Sure.
investigate going somewhere just us that I wouldn't do a family trip
Necessarily
to.
have, yeah, plan to
Yes.
do a family
So
trip
that
down the
was
line.
kind of on the thought process of, yes, we could definitely do Alaska. But do I want to make this a future trip and make it a family trip, or do we want to make it, just a girls' trip?
Sure.
Um, so those were kind of my thoughts on Fairbanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was
S-
definitely on the top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started looking at Canada location, I got a couple places. I'll touch on one very, very briefly and then kind of focus on two that I narrowed down.
Okay.
Um, I started talking to somebody who is from one of the places I was looking into, and she pointed out that the US dollar is really strong in Canada. That you get a little more
Definitely a
bang
plus
for your
for us.
buck. And
Yeah.
Alaska, a little bit like
It's a bit
Iceland,
pricey.
is a
Hmm.
kind of expensive place to visit.
Yes.
Um, and like I said earlier, I'm not saying that we need to budget real low to make the
Oh
trip. I'm
no,
not
but if we
trying to
can
slum it,
do
but
if
like,
we can do a nice trip on a place where we're going to spend less and get similar experiences,
yeah, that's
then then,
obviously
then why
a
not?
reasonable thing to do. So
Yes,
I
agree.
looked at
Yeah.
three places in Canada. I looked
Okay.
at a town called Whitehorse, which is in
Okay.
the Yukon, I think. I'm sorry,
That
I
one I'm
didn't
not
write
sure of. No, that's
the
fine.
province for that specific one. I looked in Churchill, which is in
Hmm.
Manitoba,
I
and then
know
I
about
looked
Churchill, yeah.
in Yellow. We're going to talk about it. And then I
Yeah.
looked in Yellowknife, which is in Northwest Territories. Of the three, Yellowknife is the furthest north.
Hmm.
I only point that out because we're talking about Northern Lights.
Yes.
Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna start by talking about Whitehorse. It's the one I looked at the least.
Yukon
Um,
territory.
yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I thought so.
Confirmed. Yeah, you are
Um,
correct. Look at
all
you.
three of these towns have semi-complicated transportation questions that come into play, some more than others.
Yeah.
Whitehorse is basically similar to Yellowknife, where you're probably going to fly into somewhere like Vancouver from Chicago
Hmm.
and then fly to the town. Yellowknife does have an international airport.
Hmm.
I think Whitehorse does as well. Um, and you can kind of fly right in. Okay.
Hmm.
Whitehorse had a hot spring. So I was kind of like, oh no, we have to go there. It's got a hot spring.
Ooh.
Um, they have glass blowing. They have a town. There's a couple towns nearby that have nice things. It's
Hmm.
a little bit of a city. I always feel like we have such a weird perspective because we live by such a large city.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, that when someone's like, oh, it's a city, I think of Chicago, and
That
other
is
people,
also my comparison, yes.
yes, and other people might think of cities that are not nearly as large as Chicago. I mean, Peoria is a city.
Yeah. Even
It,
Milwaukee or like Green Bay always
yes,
amazes me. It's like the size of Naperville. Like, and
yeah,
it's
or
a city, you know?
well, and Bolingbrook, where I live,
Yeah.
has a pretty large
Mhm.
population compared to some of these cities that we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
But I don't think of Bolingbrook when someone says, "Oh,
The
it's a
city.
city."
Yeah, I
I
think of
don't know.
Chicago. I agree. That's
Perspective. I
my immediate reaction is, oh yeah, the city. But it's also funny, side note, where I live is a weird, not weird, but so there's a bunch of people my husband works with that grew up essentially where we live are 10 minutes away. And when some of them say the city, they mean Joliet, which is
what?
not the city to
Sorry.
me. The first time I heard that, they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the city and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, I'm like, well, that's pretty far from you because they live in like Shorewood or something." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, or I said like I was just there, yesterday, blah blah blah." And they didn't mean Chicago. And I was like, "Oh no, I would never refer to Joliet as the
Well,
city. Like
I
that's
will
not a
say
thing."
it's sort of funny. It's almost like the flip side of that. I live in Bolingbrook, which is close to Joliet.
Yeah.
And if someone was like, "Oh, it's in Joliet," or was like, "Oh, it's in Chicago,"
I'd be
I
like,
would not necessarily think that Joliet was the closer, more convenient place to go, even though it's like 20 minutes away
right,
from my
but your
house. And
perception
Chicago
is,
is like
oh yeah,
45.
yeah. No, like I'll just hop on, we'll just hop on the expressway and head into the city. Yeah.
The city.
The city, that's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what I say. I think
Exactly.
I referred to that actually on Saturday. I took my son, we did just a mom Sunday, and we went, into the city. And I was
The
talking on the
city.
phone with somebody. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm heading home from the city, blah blah blah." Like you don't even have to specify. Like everybody knows what that means.
I
Anyways,
know.
back on track. So a lot of these other places are near a area that has things to do.
Yeah, so
A
Whitehorse
city.
definitely falls into that category. And I would have put it, and if I were to rank these three cities,
Mhm.
Churchill, Whitehorse, and Yellowknife, I would probably put Whitehorse as my kind of second place or my
Mhm.
backup plan.
That's
I
fair.
think there's things to do. I think it would be an interesting place, and I think there's a good chance we would see Northern Lights.
Hmm.
So that's great.
Yes.
Then I looked at Churchill. Churchill
Yeah.
is interesting. Uh, it is literal nowhere. There's no way to get there. You have to take a train from Winnipeg. It's a 20-hour train
A very
ride
long train ride. This
through
isn't
a
like a
desolate
3 hour.
snow-covered wasteland.
Yeah. You're gonna see polar bears or whatever things out the side of the
So
window.
now that you've pointed out, that's a very appealing thing
Yes.
about Churchill is that they
It's
have
very
polar
unique.
bears.
Yes.
However, the polar bear season and the Northern Lights
Yeah.
season do not match up.
Right.
Polar bears are around in the summer because basically what happens is as the lake thaws, they get closer to us,
Mm-hmm.
and as the lake freezes, they move further and further out to hunt. Okay.
Makes sense.
So
Got it.
once it gets colder, they leave that area and they're not around.
Mhm.
So the possible downside of Churchill became evident really quickly for me, which is that you kind of you pick which reason you're going there and you
Yeah.
won't get the other one.
No,
So
you
either
get
we would
one.
go and we would be able to be terrifyingly witness polar bears, which I think is terrifying.
Fair. They
They
are a bit
I looked
terrifying.
up these
Yeah.
trucks that they drive people out in
Oh
onto the
wow.
lake, like so that you can see and they show the polar bear. And the amazing thing is these vehicles are so large, they're like military vehicles. They're so large that the polar bear just looks like a little kitty cat walking around next to it. And
Oh
I
my
am just
gosh.
horrified because it's not a kitty cat.
No, it's a
It's not.
polar bear.
And I am just like, nope, that's too close. I
Yeah,
don't want to be that
that's
close to a polar bear.
and when you get there, you're stuck there.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's not like you're gonna be like, "Oh, something happened. I'm gonna quickly hop on a plane." You're stuck until that
Yeah,
train
how do
can go the
you
other
get
way.
home? Yeah,
Like,
like there's no urgent departure in
no.
Churchill. No.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
one train a day. maybe. I don't even know if the train's every single day.
It might not be. That's why,
yeah, could be 2
the
days a week.
logistics of this and the if needed to get out kind of put this is probably not the top of the options
So
here.
and kind of adding in because we've talked about cost a little bit with everywhere else. The train ride, if you want your own sleeper, the cost difference between your own sleeper car and sharing a sleeper car is like $40. It's nothing. It's not
nothing.
worth sharing.
No, God, no.
But it's a $650 train ride.
Yeah.
On top
all
of
you
having
do
to
is sit on the
fly to
train.
Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And so I think travel costs would be much higher in
That's fair.
Churchill than would be in either of these other two places, and probably
I think it'd be more than Fairbanks too. It'd be more than Grange, Alaska,
I would
for
guess.
sure.
Even with a rental car, I think there's no way
It
you
would
would
still
get
be.
to
There's no way.
$1,200 worth
No.
of rental car.
Gosh, no,
I
definitely
doubt
not.
it. Yeah, there's just no way you would get that high.
I would agree. Yeah.
So knowing all of that, as unique as Churchill sounds, I have no desire
Yeah.
to
I think
go
the train
there.
ride did it for me.
Yeah, when I was talking to you about Churchill, I was kind of like, so to get there,
yeah,
and you were
that.
just like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Kinda. That was
I was like,
that was kind of the consensus.
I could see that. I could see not
Yeah.
wanting to do it. And so therefore we kind of nixed Churchill pretty quickly, and that brought me around to Yellowknife.
Which I had never heard of until we started researching this. So this
me
was
neither.
brand
Me
new.
neither.
Yeah.
Probably one of us just Googled good places. I may have
Literally,
just Googled good
we just
places in
Googled.
Canada to see Northern Lights. Yellowknife gets Northern Lights, man, like 2/3 of the year.
Yes.
Like every day between September 1st and April 1st. It's like
the odds are
every single
very
day.
good. If you're looking to play the probability game, it's an excellent place to go, especially for multiple days. Because if you're going to be there for 4 or 5 days, the odds are very good that you will see even multiple times the Northern Lights.
I definitely believe that. I have watched the app, the Aurora Borealis app, religiously for the last month or so, and seen posts about it every single day. New moon, full moon, all the things that come into play with Northern Lights, which the lunar calendar does play a part. Something Lauryn and I considered when we were checking timelines. It made it actually a lot easier to narrow down roughly when we think we will go on this trip. Because we will kind of correlate with that. Yellowknife has a festival the entire month of March called the Snow King Festival, where they build a giant snow castle on the lake. And it's just a celebration like every single day at this festival. It looks fun and interesting, and it's an activity. It's an activity that's unique to this one place in the world. And I think that's really interesting. The other places that I looked at in Canada didn't really have things like that. They had a lot of the other things that Yellowknife has, which is like Northern Light tours and dog sledding and snowshoeing and all of that stuff. And a relatively nice, kind of city where there's restaurants and breweries. And yes, they have a brewery.
They do have a brewery, and it's well recommended too.
And they have food, so we can eat a meal there and like. So, I learned that they have like a saunas are kind of a thing that people really like. They have cold plunges. You want to do that thing where your hair freezes? You can do that.
I'm actually good without that. Yeah. No, I'm
good.
Good. I'll stay warm. It's fine.
I will go with you. I will not stick my head in the water. No, I'm not ruining my hair.
No, I'm comfortable.
42 years to make it look like this. One day in the ice and it all snaps off.
Yeah, no, it probably would just break. Yeah, no need for that.
Yeah.
But so many things that seemed to be available there, and I feel like the more you looked into it, the more, there's I really love some of the tours even available, and the fact that they're run by indigenous people there was
I discovered
really
quickly along my research that that was a big factor with Yellowknife that I really liked. I connected with somebody in a travel group that Lauren and I are in that's from the town. I've talked to her about tour companies and restaurants and activities, and I've kind of picked her brain too much, I feel like. I'm gonna owe her a drink if we get
Which
out
I
there.
think it's totally
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, that sounds great.
She was an absolute delight and even went so far as to tell me that if she had a winter coat that fit me, I could borrow it.
Aw.
Which is adorable,
I
and lovely,
love
just lovely.
the sense of community with some of these
Yeah.
travel groups, and this one is women in particular, but
Yeah.
I definitely like there are so many I've seen other posts too of more people from Yellowknife that they
That
all,
have
and maybe it's a
offered the
Canadian thing.
same.
They're just so friendly and
I
helpful,
know.
and they want to show us their city. Like they're
Yeah.
proud of their city and want to just show people around. And I love that. And
I
that's,
love it too. It's
an
such an
added bonus
encouraging.
to this location.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
such an encouraging thing to be welcomed as a tourist. There are a lot of
Yeah. Oh
conversations
yeah.
you have with different places around the world, especially some of the very most popular, Paris, France, or
Oh man. Yeah.
even, the some of the cities in Italy, and where you
Even
get a
some of
little
the
bit of
cities
that.
in Canada, mostly Quebec, sit like in there,
Yeah,
but
and they don't
there's
want us there.
places that,
Uh,
yes, they don't want the tourists.
and I know that's a double-edged sword because obviously their economies rely a lot on tourism, so they kind of have to grudgingly be grateful for tourists, but they
Yeah.
also feel burned out, and I respect that as well. And
Fair.
I think
Yeah.
that it's lovely to have a place that's just like, oh my gosh, it would be so exciting if you can.
Yes, agreed. It makes you excited about going and seeing, and also gives you kind of that almost comfort that there are people that we can ask questions to. The other thing about Canada is, at least where we'd be going, they speak English.
Yes.
Like, there's not a
Mm-hmm.
barrier there. You had already said that the US dollar is strong at this point, and, it's not something we have to worry about losing value going there.
Right. Yeah.
We're both adept enough with phones to manage in another country with that. But it's not also, even though it's far, there are many connecting flights from Yellowknife from multiple cities. You can
Mm-hmm.
go from Vancouver, from Calgary, or from Toronto on at
Uh-huh.
least two different airlines, and those all fly direct into Chicago. So if needed, it
Yes.
wouldn't be as difficult to get back if we
Yeah.
needed to,
Not
which is
hard to get
nice.
to, not hard to
Yeah.
get from for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
And the beauty of what you just pointed out is that it also gives us the opportunity to maybe kind of, jigsaw our travel together a little bit if we want to make a stop on the way there, on the way home.
Yeah.
One
Hmm.
thing I kind of thought of briefly, although I don't know if this is a good idea, so this would be me introducing it to you,
All right, let's hear it.
is that Calgary is very close to Banff.
Oh, Banff is supposed to
Uh,
be beautiful.
is very close.
Yeah.
Like there's a $10 bus ride from the airport.
Oh, okay. Well, that might be an
And
option.
yeah, I know. And and I was sort of like, "Oh, yeah,
Oh
I would
man, it's
fly to
less than an hour and a
Calgary."
half.
I know
Like,
it's
it's not
close.
far. Oh
I
yeah.
would fly to Calgary and stay a night to go to Banff and
Um,
see the beauty that Banff has to offer. I
yeah.
will say that when I read very, very briefly about Banff in the winter because that's sort of what
Mhm.
we were talking about.
Yeah.
Other than being yet another place you could potentially see Northern Lights, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, because they
Yeah, but we can go
do
to Lake
get
Louise
there.
and see the beautiful picture. Like that's the
Yeah.
picture you see of Banff is.
I know.
Oh,
It's right. I know,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
I came up with this
Okay.
idea.
I'm not
Um,
against your idea.
um, some of the stuff I read about winter had to do with skiing because it's a
Mm.
place where people go skiing, which obviously you and I are not gonna do
Yeah, I'm not gonna break something. We're not doing
because I'm
that.
not
I just
breaking my
park
leg
me
on the way.
somewhere pretty, give me coffee in the morning and a beer
Yeah.
in the afternoon, and I will be good.
Yes, exactly. But I thought, well, that might be a really fun,
Yeah.
intersection on the way there, on the way back,
Yeah.
and then hypothetically, the other direction, you travel wherever's either most cost
Whatever is
effective
most
or
convenient. Yeah.
convenient,
Yeah.
and, probably not add extra days somewhere else, but, I think that would be a cool possibility.
I'm
I did
Googling
look at
Banff now,
Vancouver.
and the first thing that comes in, 3-hour street art tour with craft beer tastings.
Oh man. I mean, right?
I feel like we
Two
could
nights,
enjoy.
in Banff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
5 nights in Yellowknife, and you get everything that you need. And you're gone
I
for a week.
definitely am not against this.
Yeah.
I think what will be key for us, and we are definitely doing this trip. We have
This is where we're at, you
landed on
guys.
Yellowknife. This is
Yeah.
where we've landed for a variety of reasons, but this was the trial and error of our,
Hmm.
exploration. Will be flights, and we are somewhat flexible on convenience of times and cost because we don't have to do this on a, Saturday, Friday, Tuesday. Like we got some flexibility there.
Nah, it could be
So,
almost any
yeah,
range of days.
exactly. Yeah.
So
Same.
if Thursday is the best day to fly to Yellowknife, then we tool
Yep.
the trip so that that's the day that we're flying from wherever we're coming from
Yep.
to Yellowknife.
Exactly.
And I think that our trip home,
Hmm.
we really kind of don't really care at all
No.
what
Yeah.
time of day, how
Mm-mm.
even if there's a layover and eh,
Yeah. We can make
I
it
don't
work.
really care. We'll
Yeah.
do
We're
whatever's
pretty
most cost
flexible.
effective.
Hmm.
Like it's just
Yeah. We
getting to
have
kind of take advantage of the time
yeah, which is
and
great. Because sometimes with
maximizing that.
vacations and things or kids or whatever, you want to be like, oh, well, we don't want to go on these days or whatever. But when it's just us, we're pretty flexible with this.
Yeah.
So,
No,
which is nice.
yeah.
So,
I mean, we
and
want
yeah.
to I was just going to say we want to somewhat prioritize the lunar calendar, but to be perfectly honest with you, like I said, I mean, I've been watching. What I will
Yeah.
say that I mentioned earlier was that one of the tour companies that you and I have talked at length about
Hmm.
using in Yellowknife, it has like packages that are several nights long, 3, 4 nights long, and
Hmm.
include like a hotel stay, and the hotel has like free breakfast, and it's in the middle of the city, and they also do city tours and dog sledding, and it's all part of the package. It's like 3 or 4
Yeah,
nights.
which
It's
is
all part of
great.
the package. Plus, they take you out to see Northern Lights every night. And what I've learned by following them on Facebook
Mm.
is that they will go wherever they need to go
To
to show
find
you
you the
Northern
Northern
Lights.
Lights. Yeah.
If
They
they
will
need to
find the
drive
break
to
in
the
the cloud. They will find it.
every night, they
Yeah.
post, you should follow them. I'll send you their page.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
they post almost every single night. Here's the Northern Lights we saw tonight. Here's what we saw. Here are the people that are visiting in town. They'll tell you what countries people are from, which is really
Yeah.
cool. Um, and they seem and it's an indigenous company, which is really awesome. Their other tours are supposed to be great, like the city tour and the dog
Yeah.
sledding and all of that's supposed to be really good.
Mhm.
They give you winter gear when you're
Yeah.
on the tour. So if you need snow boots or you need snow pants or you need a jacket or a hat or scarf or anything, it's
Yeah.
part of the package. That's another thing that I looked into. And I mean, yes, I'm gonna wear warm layers and I have
Sure.
winter clothing. I'm from a place that gets cold in the winter.
Yes.
But you never know when you might need a Canada Goose jacket,
Yeah, it was the other day there. I think it was like -5. But also you got to recognize that's like it at night too, no sun.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're not, I mean, yes, it's cold. I would feel like some of the people that I've seen are like, "Oh my God, it's freezing," are from like places that are warm. So,
Yeah.
but also you don't want to take up tons of your luggage space to carry a bunch of winter
Yeah.
gear
Yeah.
potentially.
Well,
So it's a really nice
yeah.
thing to have, an option.
There
So,
are places in town, even outside of these stores, that rent out winter clothing, which is great. My lovely friend that I met on Facebook has obviously offered to let me wear her clothes. Uh,
Mm.
so
Which
there's
is very
that.
nice, yes.
The obvious things like hat, gloves, I'm gonna bring with
Yeah, I'll
me
bring
because
my
I
own
have
of
those
all of
things
that. Yes,
already.
yes.
But although I did find a really awesome hat that I kind of want to buy before the trip that I do not currently own.
Okay.
It's
I'm
like
sure we will
got like
accumulate
fur ear covers.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
as
I've
we get
also
closer.
started doing a little bit of that. I have a wish list that's for gifts for me,
Hmm.
every year. And I
Yeah.
created a Yellowknife category on my wish
Oh,
list
nice.
because I don't use like Amazon. I use a different
Yeah.
website for my wish list, and you can create categories. So I have a category in it that's just Yellowknife trip, and it's
Nice.
got things like the hat, and it's got some base layer stuff and things like
Hmm.
that. And I added a tripod for my phone
Good idea.
um, because I read a little bit about taking photographs of Northern Lights, and you have to give like really long exposure
Yes. Yeah.
to get good
So holding it is
photographs.
not an option because you will not get a good picture. Agreed.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I was like, well, they have like a collapsible tripod that's like folds up to really tiny, and it's like $15. I put it on my wish list.
Perfect.
Nobody buys
Yeah.
it, I'll buy it. It's fine, but it's a perfect
Yeah.
gift for somebody to get me for my Christmas, for Christmas or whatever. And if
Yeah.
I tell my friends and family that are going to get me gifts, hey, I'm prioritizing this trip I'm going to take,
Yeah.
that's the stuff they're going to get me. So, I'm excited about kind of doing some of that initial planning, looking at some of the
Yeah.
activities in Yellowknife that just sound really good. They do have a nice collection of restaurants. I looked up a couple. I asked the girl from Yellowknife,
Hmm.
what's good that you like? And she suggested one or two places as well, which one was the brewery. Uh
Which I'm definitely in for. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another place that she also recommended. I kind of was like, I want to go eat something that I wouldn't find somewhere else. Do you guys have like regional or local dishes that are
Yeah.
popular here? Like I'm a super picky eater, so there are things that I probably wouldn't eat, but that doesn't mean I don't want to go to the place that has that thing.
Yeah. You can always
Like
find potentially something else. And if we plan ahead, you can look at the menu
yeah,
and
yeah, and I
make
can
sure
make
there's
you order the
something.
weird thing, and I can
Yeah,
try
which is
it. No.
generally fine. Yeah, which is generally what I will do. So that
Yeah,
works out. This works out for both of us.
everybody wins.
Yeah, I'm totally
Uh,
in. But
Yeah,
yes, this
so
was
that's
this was a
and
excellent. I think things fell into place, and I don't think that there was really when we got to looking at our options. I feel like I think Yellowknife was just the front runner for a variety of reasons. But
yeah,
we
I know there
definitely
was a
explored
yeah.
other choices, and some fell off right away, and others, like I think Fairbanks would have been probably up
I
there
think
as
it was
well.
pretty tight between
Yes.
Fairbanks
Yeah.
and Yellowknife, and I think
Mhm.
it boiled down to like you mentioned the driving
Yeah.
situation, and then I
Mhm.
mentioned the kind of the money situation.
Yeah.
And those two factors sort of Yellowknife does not require driving. We do not have to
At
rent a
all.
car.
Literally at
You
all.
get
Yeah.
off the plane and the shuttle for the hotel will pick you up.
Yep, which is
And you will
great.
get into the city, which is 10 minutes away, and you will stay in that hotel
And you can
and
walk
walk
to the things that are near.
around
Yeah.
everything that
Hmm.
we mentioned, the festival, all of the tour stuff, everything is walking, all these restaurants that we're interested
Yep.
in, it's all just walking distance.
Yeah,
And
which
yeah,
I
I
think is
know it's
really
-5
convenient.
out, but I
Yeah,
can
but
walk with my hat
I
on.
yeah, I can walk, and also when you have to drive longer distances, you're kind of just wasting time driving too. I
Hmm.
enjoy a city that is walkable, that I can
I do
get to
too.
things and not have to get in the car and go drive and then find parking and then get out, I like being able to just walk a couple blocks down, grab something to eat, stop in a shop, look here, look there. Like I
Absolutely.
really enjoy
Absolutely.
that. And I do think a factor for me was that Alaska may be a family trip at some point. I'm not
Absolutely.
going to
Yeah.
Yellowknife with my kids. Like
No,
this
I
is
don't
not
imagine that I
a
would.
trip
I
that I
don't.
would take with the family, which made it more desirable to go with just us,
Yeah.
someplace that I don't think I would do as a family trip as much.
Yeah,
So,
and I even in my conversations with Mike about the
mhm.
trip, not to say that he's not interested or wouldn't go, but
Yeah,
he wasn't like, "Oh, that sounds amazing. I
right.
want to do that." Like he
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it
Oh,
sounds like you
that
guys will
sounds
have fun.
cool.
That's cool."
Yeah.
Whereas like bringing back in Iceland,
Hmm.
everyone in my family has a strong desire to return to
To go
Iceland.
back. Yeah,
And Mike
fair.
especially He would make multiple trips back to Iceland at
Okay.
some point. I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
You know, probably with me, but
Most likely.
he does kind of want to take his dad there to like golf in Iceland at midnight, you know, because it's the sun is out.
Sun in the
20
summertime, yeah.
Yeah. But so there is you could argue there's a possibility he'd get there without me at some point, but I know he's interested in going back, and that was, I think, one of the things that was kind of in the back of my mind when we were talking about Iceland.
Yeah.
I was like, do I do things that he would really want to do and then know that I might have to do them again? And some of those, I'm sure the answer is yeah,
fine,
sure, why not? Why wouldn't
but
I just
other
go back to the hot spring? Like, but what if I do a snowmobile tour on the glacier and it's fine and I liked it, but I don't want to do it again.
Yeah,
and he wants to do it, and our kids are older and they want to do it. Like, you know, then I'm in a position where I'm either not going and staying behind, or I'm doing something I already did that I could take or leave.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that when I'm looking at trips without the family, I often am looking for places and things that I wouldn't necessarily plan for a family trip.
Yeah.
And I do feel like this fits that bill that sure, could we have fun as a family? Yeah, but it's not going to be on the top of my list of places to bring the kids, you know. So I think that it definitely was a little bit more desirable in that, because again, we probably will make it to Alaska at some point as a family, and you know, a lot of the things that we probably would have done if we went there, I would do again with the family. So yeah, so that's where we land, how we landed on where we landed, and I'm very much looking forward to solidifying some plans.
Yeah, we're getting to so the goal is to go at probably about the end of February and kind of bleed into March. The winter festival that they have is the month of March. So if we were to hypothetically stop in Calgary for a couple nights or something like that at the beginning of the trip, you know, we might do a couple days in February and then kind of lead into March, finish up with a day or so that we're at doing the festival and doing extra stuff if we were to do a tour package in the middle there. And so we're at just under the 1 year mark from when we think we want to go. So we're not quite at the point where there are, you know, I kind of looked today to see, you know, how far out our flights, and they're like the beginning of January. You know,
we got a little bit of time
airlines
before we
are not yet at the point where they're releasing flights that far ahead. Most airlines don't. I think it's because they don't want to decide how much to charge you that far in advance.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors. So we'll keep an eye out, and we, like I said, we're flexible, which is great. So when they're available, we will start actually solidifying our plans. But we went through this fun exercise of trying to figure out what we wanted and where we wanted, and I think we're both excited to
totally,
you know, actually play, like get something on the books. So very much looking forward to that.
Definitely. I really enjoyed the way we approached this, kind of presenting some ideas to each other. And as we had discussion, and a lot of this was like Facebook Messenger conversation, but like as we discussed this topic, it was sort of like, oh, I learned this cool thing about Fairbanks, or oh, I learned this cool thing about you know, Churchill that isn't cool because you have to take a train. How do you get to
here's these
Churchill?
Unique things about the different places, and it was also educational.
What I enjoyed the most was that instead of one of us like advocating for one place and one of us advocating for another, it was just like, I'm going to give you a bunch of fun facts, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. And then you can tell me what you know, and when you were talking about Alaska and you argued that it's more a place you would go with your family and things like that, I was just sort of like, yeah, okay, well, let's talk about Yellowknife because I think you're going to like it. And it maybe isn't what you discovered about Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And that's and instead of one of us being like, I want to go here, and the other one going, no, I want to go
Yeah, it
there.
definitely wasn't that at all. It was very much a collaboration amongst us, which was a great way to get there.
It was a great way to come to the conclusion that we came to find this place that we want to go. And it makes it very exciting. And we're at the point now where both of us can be like, I'm going to contribute these thoughts, and we're going to, I'd like to look at this.
Yeah.
And, and I know we're both really hardcore planners. I love the fact that the simplicity of planning this trip is going to make it very enjoyable, because we're going to pick out the couple of things we have to pick out, flights and timing, and then everything else is just going to fall into place based on that. And it's going to be really easy. We're not going to make 50 million decisions. We're going to make 5.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's going to be so nice.
Yes, that is a very nice part of
because we don't have to worry about those things. Nope. I mean, if we do a multiple night tour that includes a hotel package and has Northern Lights, then all of those activities that are a priority for both of us,
they're already
sorted out.
Yeah.
That's
and then
done.
We can just wander around town during the day and find some little cafe to sit in for a bit. And
I mean, our days are, I think one thing we haven't mentioned
take a nap.
We are gonna have messed up sleep schedules, man, because I've been these
for sure
pictures are at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah, well, some of these hotels, they wake you up, but the tours, we'll go out on the tour because they're gonna drive us around till we find the lights. So, but I think a nap needs to be scheduled during the day.
Yeah, we got to get up to eat the hotel breakfast. Yeah, and so then maybe go back to sleep until lunch and revisit.
Good with that, and then start our day. That sounds perfect.
Yeah, I'll see you downstairs for breakfast at 10, and then I'm gonna go back to sleep till 1.
Perfect. I'm in. Yeah, can totally do this. I love it. I like it. Well, thank you for coming along on our journey of planning.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for enjoying Bourbon County with us. It's been great.
That's what I really liked, actually. So
yeah, it was really good.
We will keep you posted on further plans.
There'll be an update. When we get to summer, early fall, we'll tell you guys where we're at with this plan. We'll lay out all the fun details. And at any point, if you guys heard us talk about anywhere that you're interested in going, know that we have an absurd amount of research about all these places. And we're happy to talk to you for several hours.
Very much
about it.
Just ask. Yes.
Yeah.
We will share any knowledge that we have. So
yes, or literally anywhere that we have visited in the past and mentioned on the podcast. You can do that with anything.
Love sharing fun facts about places that we have visited. So
absolutely.
Awesome. This has been fun. I'm going to keep drinking my Bananas Foster, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Yeah. Take it easy, guys.
Bye. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week, and cheers to you all.